Hello there, welcome to MRMNG Draws. Again, it's a work in progress title, I'll come up with something. So a little while ago, I happened upon a boatload of my old drawings that I did back in early secondary school, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to take some of those character designs I did and redraw them with the skills I have now. So the backstory behind this character stems from when I was first introduced to anime, and people can probably figure out which two I like the most. But unlike a lot of other people from my generation, I never watched Dragon Ball or Naruto until much later in life. Rather, I knew about them from two PlayStation 2 games, Budokai 3 and Ultimate Ninja 2. I played these games so much that I basically unlocked everything without even knowing guides existed on the internet. In my prepubescent brain, while in the process of conceptualizing a character, I thought to myself, I like Saiyans and I like ninjas, so this character will be both a Saiyan and a ninja. And I thought I was a genius. Like, this was me at the height of my weeb power level. I didn't know what Japanese was, so I just strung together some foreign sounding syllables that I thought sounded cool, and there we have it. There's his name. The idea was to showcase the character's progression in the form of transformations as he grew older. Here you can see I was struggling to try and capture the original face shape, so I had to do a second iteration before I was happy. Once the initial outline is done, I can pretty much relax and experiment with the inking. In my book at least, it doesn't have to make complete physical sense, but it needs to look cool. It's kind of interesting to look back and see how weird some of your design choices were. Like, at the bottom of his trousers, I still don't know what those are. Now we get to the fun part of drawing Super Saiyans. You can see that Super Saiyan 1 has increased muscle mass and definition. I really had to hold myself back from adding too much muscle since I needed to save that Herculean physique for later transformations. The energy ball thing is something I straight up stole from Jim Lee, who I think refined it from Jack Kirby. This method of cutting repeated circular dead space out of ink to simulate light has been popular in Western comics ever since. As we progress to Super Saiyan 2, this is where I really start to play with the design elements. Whenever possible, I tried to explore what sort of shapes I could pull off with the scarf to give each transformation a unique character. It also let me screw around with the lighting scheme, placing half his body in shadow, both for dramatic effect and to avoid drawing half of him. His hair is also more erratic. I started to cut bits of ink out of it to give it a more violent character. Now at 3, you'll see that I am establishing a hallmark of every Dragon Ball Z illustration, and that is the constipation pose. I decided to scrap the original posing I had as they looked pretty awkward. I seem to have this weird habit of raising a character's hand for no apparent reason. Like, this guy's fist pumping like he's at a house music concert, and these guys really like finger guns. The concept here is to have our character mid-flight and he's about to go in for a burst of speed or maybe an attack. I do like the circular scarf outlines that emphasize the hands. He hasn't quite got the superhero muscle mass yet, but I went all out on the definition and vascularity to make him more intimidating. Moving on to 4, I kind of drew 3 and 4 in parallel. I have always thought that the design of Super Saiyan 4 is a very cool callback to the Great Ape trait that made Saiyans unique, as for most of Z past the Saiyan saga, it's essentially never touched on again. It's a refreshing break from the formula of increasingly aggressive hairstyles. To further the progression of power and intimidation, I thought of his energy being so powerful that his body temperature makes moisture evaporate off him, creating steam, kind of like in the breakup, or Luffy in Gear 2nd mode. This feeds in pretty well to the next transformation. Now, disclaimer, I didn't know that there was already a popular Dragon Ball Z fan continuation known as AF, I believe, which started with a Super Saiyan 5 fan art by an artist named David Montiel Franco. I was barely ever on the internet. Most of my childhood was occupied playing video games, so my version of this Super Saiyan 5 was derived from the Omega Shenron arc of GT. The idea was my character was so powerful, so badass, that he absorbed the 7 Dragon Balls, causing him to ascend, and the weirdest part is it still looks kind of awesome to me. He has this great ape fur that runs along his back which just explodes into flames, and he has this beast-like monstrous appearance. I actually struggled the most on this image, not because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, but I had to solve the problem of drawing myself into a literal corner. I didn't have the space, and I wanted to keep the image as compact as possible, so I had to rework the arm a couple of times. His neck still looks a bit funky to me, but I can deal. The final touches I added are some glow and lightning effects on a separate clipping layer to add a smidge of polish. I have this strange appreciation for these old images. Like, when I look at them, it's almost like I remember what I felt drawing them back then. Like, I remember pressing so hard into the paper because this guy was so badass and so powerful that he needed that intensity. I have to stress that it's important to not interpret the 10-year gap of time as 10 years of constant practice, because it wasn't. I drew like once every few days, and I barely drew at all through my late teens. It's only in the last couple of years I really started to take it seriously and dedicate a portion of my day every day to drawing and painting, and that's where most of the improvement comes from. I guess my point is that it's the amount of time you put into the activity, not the arbitrary length of time that has passed since you started. And there you have it, 10 years later. Time sure flies. While in the conceptual process of creating a character to draw, it's kind of interesting to... I didn't know that there was already a popular I'm thinking of making this a sub-series where I'll redesign my old characters every now and again. Let me know what you think about the format of the video and what you'd like to see next in the comments below. Thank you for making it to the end.